Yes.
And my parents said it was that tutor that said, if something happens,
Yes.
you better get out very quickly because your house will be attacked.
Yes.
So she didn't went into details.
Yes.
And as soon as the war kicked off, our house was the second house that was looted.
What?
It was looted. And then years later, my mom bumped into this teacher in London somewhere. She managed to get out. And she said in the house that she lived in, which was not a very well-to-do family, like she was renting a room from them.
Yes.
She goes, I could hear the conversations. If there's something happens, we're going to attack that house. We're going to attack that house. So she goes, there was a whole plan
yes.
being put in place to attack certain people.
Yes.
So when I went to London, for me, that was the first time I experienced poverty. So London was my first poverty experience. It's crazy. Yeah. It's my first poverty experience.
And even to me, actually, I'm like, I've never had this side of story because I know a few people who have been privileged, but not so privileged, but I've not had their story. Like, how is it to transition and how is it to rebuild? Because now, if you're in that state now, your mind switches on and you're like, I need to rebuild that experience that I moved out.
But can I tell you?
Yeah.
That was the best thing that could have happened to my family.
In
the long run. I'll tell you why. Because the life we led in Mogadishu, we were close family, but there was a gap. My father was busy just making money. He was never he would go away for 6 weeks. Those days you didn't have flights, regular flights. If you left, you were away for at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So there wasn't, the war has made us so close because now we are, my dad didn't join us for 2 more years after that.
Yes.
My parents genuinely thought they were going to go back.
Yes.
My dad was going to wait around.
Yes.
And, things would calm down. And there was 3 attempted assassinations on him.
How powerful was your dad?
My dad, oh my God, he's an amazing man. Oh my God. He's a big part of who I am too, by the way. Like, he was, again, my parents grew up in the most interesting time in Somalia. So they were both born into colonization. So they knew freedom. Like, they really felt freedom. So they were born into colonization, then obviously they were free, right? So they saw both sides. So they really embraced their freedom.
Yes.
So they were lovers of art and music. I was telling one of my colleagues yesterday, my mom's hand luggage whenever she traveled was her records.
Records.
She's a big music lover, music lover.
What kind of music?
Oh my God, she loves Somali bands. She loved disco funk. I was introduced to Motown very early on in my childhood. Even though we didn't speak English, but we knew all the Al Green songs and Diana Ross. We knew all of them because it was a big music house.
Yes, yes.
So I remember being in that kind of environment. But so I was saying, like, my dad, there was a 3rd assassination on him, but him moving back to the UK, he finally joining us. I think 94 is when we realized, okay, we're not going nowhere. We're going to be here
for a long time.
For a very long time.
Yeah.
But what it gave us, and we talk about this too now, by then we have my little brother, who's my brother, by the time we came to the UK, he was 4 months. So he doesn't know that life. He only knows UK life. But what it gave us is a family unit that we still have till now. So in a way, it was the best thing. Because me and my sister joke that if the war never happened, we would have been the Paris Hiltons of Mogadishu. And that doesn't sound like a good thing. Doesn't sound.
Yeah. So are you saying privileged life throughout your life where you don't know poverty, you don't know stress, you don't know depression?
We didn't have real life experience.
It was all
I think the FGM experience was real life for me. That was the most traumatic experience.
And even as being privileged, you had to go through FGM.
Can you imagine? So this is the thing, right? My story, my work has always been, people have this assumption, especially the West has an assumption, FGM only happens to people who are not educated. I'm like, no. My mother, her dad was a doctor.
Yes.
He took her to the hospital himself. FGM is about controlling women. It's controlling the female body. It's controlling female sexuality. It's not about religion and culture.
Yes.
I hate when people put that, wrap it around in that. It's not that. We live in a society where we want to control women, full stop.
Yes. And let's talk about FGM for a minute. But before that, you're also big on HIV/AIDS. And I remember in the 90s, and when I share my story, I say why that is so personal to me. It's like wiped African, literally. Yeah. Like across. And I think even this is still happening in South Africa. And it's big. And one of the things that actually most of the people who are affected by these are women.
Absolutely.
To start with, because if someone gets sick, in African culture, a woman takes care for everyone. So how was that related to FGM and
again? Everything I got involved in was by accident. I never actually
planned to
everything
do
happened. Like it's like the universe
Yes.
guided me from undergoing FGM, taking me out of my privileged life to the UK. Really shaped who I am today. I don't think I would be doing any of this if that didn't happen to me.
Yes.
So the HIV conversation came up during my work around violence against women, especially around FGM, because
Yes.
so when they're cutting girls, they cut them in groups. And during those procedures, you can actually be infected with HIV. So a lot of girls were infected
Because you're sharing the
like
the
a blade,
knife
so
or the
blood
blade,
is
yeah.
just being like
all
shared.
over.
Oh my God, it's really bad. And not just that, a lot of the girls who have undergone FGM have experienced, so there was a wave of, and it's still happening somewhere,
Yes.
where men felt, if I have sex with a virgin,
Yes.
my HIV will disappear. So a lot of girls
What?
were raped. So
What?
imagine they're closed, their genitalia is totally closed. Now they've been raped. Now they've been
Raptors.
diagnosed
Yeah.
with HIV. And guess what happens in the community? She gets ostracized. She's the one kicked out, called, people say she's a witch. And she's only 11. Like you can imagine. So when I say my work around, it's not just the girl child. My work has been around the African girl child.
Yeah.
So if you look at the statistics of WHO, the World Health Organization, clearly states
Yes.
the most vulnerable human being in the world
Yes.
is the girl African child. She's the one who's left behind. No one ever remembers. Every time something goes down in the world, she's the last one we think of. Because she's not even, the fact that she's born female, the fact that she's born black, and she's now in Africa.
Yes.
In a part of the world we think is developed.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's so you can imagine. So FGM and HIV has been attacking those two groups the most. Hence why now we don't even talk about HIV anymore.
So you
for
could
me,
not address FGM without addressing HIV and AIDS.
not just that. When you're addressing FGM, you have to address obviously HIV and AIDS. You have to address inequality. You have to address all forms of gender-based violence. You have to address economical abuse, because FGM happens. So a parent, especially in Kenya, you guys have a practice where the girl gets cut, mutilated, next day or a few days after she's married off. And I'm using air quotes here. I don't believe a child can be married
Forgive
off.
my
I hate
Forgive my
that word.
ignorance.
Yeah.
Forgive my ignorance. Because I have the information I have about FGM and there's the facts about FGM. So number one, I know some of the communities that I've read and investigated that they do FGM specifically is to control a woman.
Is to control the female body and her
Exactly.
sexuality.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that if a guy goes to ASO or to look for food and money and whatever, she cannot go outside the marriage.
Yep.
And I understand when you say someone is cut and then they're married off.
Yep. It's
Because
really,
it's like
very
a
to do with
maturity transition.
and it's to do with economics.
Yes.
The parents cannot afford to keep her in the house anymore.
So it's a commodity. They turn out to be a
Well,
commodity.
if she leaves, then less money for the family to spend. It's less mouth to feed. But it's the girl who gets sacrificed in the family.
Yes.
So it's the moment she's 8-9 years old, she's going to be cut, being given away to a man who's 45. And that leads to other forms of abuse. And even to a lot of physical abuse in terms of if she gets pregnant, her body can't even carry a baby.
Yes.
So they end up having something called fistula.
Yes.
Fistula is when the vagina
And
wall
it's really
breaks.
bad,
It's
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
It's so common, but we don't talk about it. Do you know how many women are affected by fistula? Just in this country.
Yes,
Somalia has like special houses
Yes.
for girls with fistula. But no one talks about it. And it's such a simple operation to
The
fix.
stigma by itself.
There's stigma, but it's such an operation to fix this. But no one funds it. No one's funding this. It's crazy to me. It's literally, she just needs the small operation in a clinic. You don't even have to go to a big hospital. It can be done in a small clinical room.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You just needs to suture that vagina wall again.
And
And she'll be fine. Her
and
whole
they're
life,
okay.
like it makes a massive change to her whole life. but we don't even, our governments are not even thinking of this. They focus on something else. We put so much effort towards COVID.
And a lot of billions in dollars.
Billions to COVID.
Well, most of
to a
that
virus.
was stolen, but it's okay.
This is you saying this.
That's another discussion.
But what I'm saying is, but you see how we are conditioned, right? So if you look at our minds, look at how we've been conditioned. Like we've been conditioned to put so much focus on a virus we couldn't even see. We were fighting something we could not see. Who even knows this whole thing? I'm not.
Is it real or not?
I'm sure. Listen, I don't want to trigger people who.
Where
have
there's
this.
that question, it's open. Everyone is asking.
For me, whether it was real or not, for me, it's we need to really ask ourselves, why did we focus so much on that? Where 3 million girls in Africa at risk 3 million girls are cut every year in Africa. That we're not shutting down streets, locking people down for it, asking why is that actually,
how can we address it?
Why are we not addressing this? And that the cutting leads to so many problems, like fistula. Like it really affects her whole life. Unless that's fixed,
yes,
it affects her whole life. There's no way. The stigma, and then she's again ostracized. Even though adults put her in that situation,
yes,
where she's mutilated, then married off. I don't like to say that. I don't like the word marriage, by the way. I like to clarify this. I'm using air quotes.
Yes.
I hate. One of the things I'm challenging in the space that I work in is language.
Yes.
Language has such an impact, right? The way you frame something has an impact on how you deal with it.
Yes.
So when we're saying child marriage, we're saying, we know it's wrong, but you brush the word marriage into it. Because, marriage is something that two adults consent to.
Yes.
Like it's something two adults consent. So these girls did not consent.
And they're children.
They're children. In the West,
yeah,
they would never use the word child marriage. It's called pedophiles. If an adult man.
And it's a serious crime.
It's a serious crime. So why can't we give our girls the same justice? That's what I'm saying. When you're saying Leyla's fighting for African girls.
Yes.
That's what I'm fighting for.
Yes.
Because we're not giving our girls that look like us, that looks like my daughter, our daughters, are never given the same justice. Just by language. We're not even calling it for what it is. If a girl in London, white girl, blonde hair, blue-eyed, was given to a 45-year-old man, he will be in prison. He'll be beaten up in prison. He'll be lucky if he's alive because that's zero tolerance.
Yes.
But then why us Africans? This is how Africans, our minds have been conditioned.
Yes.
Because, we experienced abuse going back to slavery.
Yes.
Because that was so bad.
Yes.
This is not even a big deal anymore. And that's the frame of mind we need to start shifting.
So are you saying we are releasing our pain that we have experienced for a long time through slavery?
We normalized it.
Colonization.
We normalized that pain.
It's okay.
We normalized that pain. What we started doing? We started putting levels. It's like, this is not the worst one. But why is pain ever okay? Pain should never be okay. Oh my God, especially when we're inflicting it on our girls. Even our boys, like that's a whole different conversation. Like this, even when we see toxic men or toxic women, it means we've abused them as children. So there's no ever, one thing that I wish we can do in this continent, it's really have a healthy conversation about children and how we treat children. Because that's what's creating these toxic people. We have to go back a little bit and relook at, looking at our education system.
Yes.
How that impacts
the
information we give.
Yes.
So for me, what Africa needs, it needs to recharge our brains.
And reset.
And we need to reset because it's not okay that a 9-year-old is given away to a 45-year-old man or 60-year-old man. And we brush it with the idea of culture and marriage. That's not acceptable on the other side of the world.
Yes.
Rightly so.
Yes.
Why is it okay for us? That's the challenge.
Yes.
And I'm challenging that to all of your listeners.
Yes.
Why do we think that's okay? Ask yourself, why is it okay when it comes to our children? Somehow it's okay. It's okay for us to be poor. It's okay for us not to look after our children. It's okay for us to abuse our girls.
Yes.
But in the other side of the world, that's not acceptable. There are laws and policies that protect you. But here we normalized it. Even we don't acknowledge it.
Yes.
See what I mean?
Let me ask you something, because mostly how we would address this, now there's tech, right? And I'm sure any person who is listening to this and is a tech or a developer, they would ask, okay, I might not be able to hold placards and go out there in the street. And one of the ways that actually I run a couple of communities, we have tried to address different issues besides, we don't address FGM and maybe that's not something I'm so familiar with. but to address corruption and poverty.
Yes, yeah.
And I know from that, actually, you can really grow like a generation
Yep.
to avoid most of these things.
Absolutely.
So one of the ways that we do this is train people in technology,
Yes.
and then build solution or get a job that actually you can support yourself and avoid all this temptation. Because one of the things that I've realized is people actually in Africa, they don't want to be corrupt, but the system, the way it's configured, the environment you're put in, you have no choice. For instance, you have a job that you have a job offer that you got in company X, and you need a passport,
Yep.
and you have a month, and it's between you and this job. Someone tells you, you know what, you need $500.
Yep.
You're gonna do everything,
Absolutely.
even wrong things. So if you're not in that position, it's really hard to do this. Leyla, having gone and investigated about all this, and I'm not sure when you say you are FGM survivor, if you went through the card or you escaped, I don't know which is which, but you're gonna tell us. How do you think tech can address this?
So when people ask me to introduce myself, I always say I'm a disruptor of systems. Because the reason FGM even happened to me is because there's a system that allows it to happen.
Ah, I see.
So it's not, for me, FGM, child marriage, domestic violence, these are just buzzwords we are told to focus on.
Yes.
To keep us away from the actual problem.
Yes.
The actual problem is there's a system why this actually happens. So I don't want to, for me, it's not dealing with FGM or domestic violence, child marriage.
Yes.
No. I want to look at why these things continue to happen.
Yes.
Because again, and I one of the things I've learned over the years, I've worked really closely with policymakers and lawmakers. You know, they're the ones who are setting these rules and regulations.
Yes.
So for me, what we need to look at is, so maybe where tech can really play a big role.
Yes.
Is actually get a sense of what, I would love to see how I can go on one, I can just put, I don't know, get an app where I can just put my gender and which country I'm from, and then just give me all the laws that are against me. Like just show me what that would look like.
Yeah.
That's the system.
And we can address those
because a lot of us don't have access to this.
Yes.
We don't have access.
People even don't know a constitution.
No, I meet people who have been doing this work for 30 years, but they never thought about looking at the constitution. Like, I'll give you an example. We had, so I'm one of the leadership team on a big consortium who's trying to end FGM here in Africa, right? So we had a big team meeting, and I was talking to a couple of the countries. So we work in Somalia, Somaliland, Senegal, and Ethiopia. So I was speaking to the Somaliland team. And I really wanted to dig deep, deep dive.
Yes.
I wanted to deep dive into what they really meant. Right?
Yes.
Things need to change.
Yes.
They were so focused on getting an FGM bill. And I've never been for an FGM act. For me, it's like we should, if we have an act that says don't harm children, I don't need an FGM bill.
Yes.
Why are we creating? Do you see how these systems are built? Even building new acts, there's money connected to it.
I wanted to ask something about this
how the system works?
Because there's someone actually, I don't know.
Why am I trying to create a new bill? If we have a constitution that says don't physically and emotionally and socially harm a child, FGM, all these things fall under that. Why do we need to have... Anyway, so they were focused on getting this act. And I said, can you give me a little background on how Somaliland addresses women's issues? Guess what they tell me? There's no bill in protecting women from rape.
Yes.
There's no bill against discrimination. Literally basic things.
Yes.
And the one that really shocked me was Somaliland women cannot marry a man outside of their community. It's actually illegal.
I think I know about that.
But men can.
Oh, yes.
Hey,
that's the trick.
So I was like, okay, FGM is
so
just
you're
a
not
buzzword.
allowed to love someone, but the other gender is allowed to be open about it.
Exactly. Women are only supposed to, but you see how controlling the system is built. The women have to be under our control. So I said to them, the problem is not FGM, guys. The problem is there's a system in place that has no respect for women. That has to be addressed first.
Yes.
Because if you address that first, then no lawmaker's going to say to you, oh no, cutting women is bad.
Yes.
Because the reason they don't take it seriously, they're actually telling you can't even be in love.
Yes.
You live in a society where you have to be very careful who you fall in love with.
Because you're not allowed to fall in love with everyone.
Because the system has been built that way. So that must be addressed. So for me, it's going back to the root of the problem. And I guess the tech world, I mean, this is just for my, like I said,
yes.
I would love to have an app, whatever country I go to.
So you're saying you need transparency on this?
I want to know. I want to know how that country protects me.
Yes.
If something happens to me, are there laws that can protect me? I don't know what that looks like.
Guys, you have had it. You have had it. I know you guys can bootstrap this
Leyla.
very quick.
I want to know how safe I feel.
Yes.
And I want a system that can tell me this. As soon as I land somewhere, I want to put my gender,
whichever country, whichever nation,
and my race. Because if you're not a national, certain countries, you don't usually get protected.
So the laws do not apply to
you. Yeah.
That's an interesting fact I've known today.
Yeah. So it's the system.
Yes.
If I'm constantly ranting on about something, it's not these issues we keep naming. It's, I like I said, for me, language is very important. It's very powerful. Even the word domestic violence. What's so domesticated about violence?
Nothing.
Tell me why? Because and do you know why they did it like this? Again, it's the lawmakers are also a big part of this massive mess. Because if a stranger outside, a male stranger attacks me physically.
Yes.
And I use the UK, right? I grew up in the UK.
Yes.
I don't have to do anything. The police will take him. He'll be prosecuted. Basically beat me a blue and black, like literally.
Yeah.
So the law takes him. Great, right? That's a great response. But if he carries the tie to a partner, does the exact same act, beats me up, black and blue, same situation, but because he's my partner,
that's a whole different scenario.
Unless I give evidence against him or report him, he won't be taken by the police. Do you see how these systems are built? So when we're saying domestic violence, there's nothing domesticated. So now, because it's my partner, it's the domesticated version.
And I can tell you, Leyla, most of us are ignorant.
We all learn it. I had to learn this too.
We're educated, but ignorant about some of these facts. And it's good we're having this conversation.
I'll give you another example.
Yep.
I want people to... Honor killing. Have you heard of honor killing?
No.
So honor killing is very big amongst the Asian and the Middle Eastern communities. Even in Africa, there's something called honor killing. It's when a girl, the family, she goes against something of the family, or she marries the wrong guy, or she's seen. But when I say honor killing certain families, it's just her going to the cinema. It's like, and they kill her. It's for the honor of the family. She's actually killed. So in the UK, we really challenge this language. Because she's from an Asian family or African or Middle Eastern, all of a sudden, it was honorable. That's the way the legal system was presented.
What is honorable about killing someone?
It's murder. But when a white girl got killed, it was murder. First degree. But the honor killing, they will get less sentence because, it's his culture to want to strangle his own child.
Yes.
In his bath. I mean, there was a famous case that I was brought into in the UK. It was called the Banaz Mahmood case.
Yes.
Because they found out during the autopsy,
yes,
she was Kurdish.
Yes.
They found out she had FGM. So they needed to bring experts to this. This guy, she only had a boyfriend. I think she was Kurdish. He was Turkish, literally right next door. And her father did not just kill her. He cut her into pieces and put her in a suitcase. He was convicted under the honor killing.
And what do you get from honor killing
conviction? You get lesser sentence.
Like 6 months of community work? Or?
No. I mean, usually with murder, you might get like 15 years, 20 years. He must have gone like 10 years. And with good behavior, he could have left. I think he might have been out of prison. I don't know by now. But what I'm saying is but you see the justice we give to girls of color. When they get harmed, we call it child marriage. FGM, which is a cultural practice.
Yes.
It's honor killing.
Yes.
Oh my God. Give us what we deserve. Give us the justice we deserve. And sometimes it's just calling it for what it don't say. I mean, FGM, the actual term is serious sexual assault.
Yes.
Touching a child's genitalia, it's sexual assault. You couldn't touch a child's genitalia right now. You'd be arrested. Why? Just because they call it circumcised, all of a sudden that's changed. So for me, you have to, if we're going to challenge systems,
Yes.
we have to challenge the language.
Yes.
It comes hand in hand. Because once you get the language right, see now, next time someone says to you domestic violence, you're going to say, what's so domesticated about this? Where's the laws? I would like to know how Kenya treats domestic violence cases. Because it's to protect the men again.
What about gender violence?
But gender-based violence is all of them. Gender violence means you've been violated because you were born from that gender. I always say, I remember saying years ago in a conference, I said, oh my God, I've been convicted just because I was born female. I was convicted with a lot of violence, whether it's emotional abuse, sexual harassment whenever you're going somewhere. Like literally, women are never feeling safe. Like you're always worried, am I going to be attacked?
Yes.
In the room?
And it's interesting, Leyla.
Fear. There's that constant fear you're carrying around.
Yes, it's interesting that I've had this discussion offline with different people. And if you pay a keen eye, nowadays there's even men who are violated.
Absolutely.
A lot.
Oh, yes.
A lot. And for me, I know girl child has been going through a lot for a long, especially African girl child, for a long time. And addressing that is really, really important.
100%.
But if you're not careful, and this is my feeling, we're going to address the girl child issues, all of them. And guess what? Down the line, we need to address the boy child issues. What is your take on that?
Oh, no, let me explain what I mean.
Yeah.
So when I design a girl child program,
Yes.
all children are involved, including boys. Because there's no point of just making her powerful and safe because if you don't keep him safe, he has to be part of her journey.
Yes.
What I mean is, let's not forget the girl's at the like she's the one who's at risk right now.
Yes.
But to make sure she's safe, 100% safe, you have to work with everybody
All
around
the stakeholders.
her. Oh, everybody.
Yes.
Because usually what happens in these programs is the other way around.
Yes, yes.
What I'm saying is, let's keep because she's the most vulnerable. Let's keep her here.
Yeah.
But we need to work with her dad,
Yes.
brother, her uncle, her teacher who's also a male, the community leader. So it has to be done like that, but let's not forget that she's at the front. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
The way I'm designing this, it's the girl has to be at the front because she's not safe. That's just the world she lives in.
Yeah.
But in order for her to be 100% safe, we have to work with the men.
And that's quite smart because if you don't
can't do it
involve all the
otherwise.
stakeholders, again, you save the same problem.
No, for me, it's the way these programs are designed that are dangerous sometimes. Then you're constantly putting the power back to those that already had the power. What I'm saying, let's just reshift the power. Let's just share the power equally. Not taking not one person should take the power.
So that we can give
share
the
the power equally. That's the way we design our programs. It has to be. And actually, let's all circle this girl. Actually, one of the girls who, so we in Kenya, we recently launched a survivors-led training where we work with survivors who are running organizations. So we're giving them, how do you run your organization? How do you deal with the media? We give them a basic counseling course, like how do you deal with emotional impact? How do you run an organization in a healthy way? And recently I met up with some of the girls and one of them said, wow, you know what I'm realizing? We need to really keep making sure, you're right. We need to make sure we work with everybody because she goes, if I get too powerful, they won't be able to cope.
Yeah.
Then it puts me more at risk.
Yeah.
So even with those who I work with, I'm constantly challenging them. Because the word empowerment is thrown around all the time.
Yes, yes.
Actually, a quick story. I have a daughter who's going to be 20 in August.
Yes.
And so when we were designing this program a couple of years ago, so I was putting together the vision. And I'm like, a lot of these jargon words, I don't want this. This has to be real. It has to be authentic and real. I thought I'll talk to my daughter about
and
what
close
it was like.
to you.
So I said, let me talk to her about what it was like for her to be a girl, raised by me. So maybe something will come up from that conversation. And I said, what was it like that you had a mother who empowered you? She went, oh, I didn't know you empowered me. I was so offended by this, by the way. I was like, excuse me, after everything I did for you? Do you see what we do to our kids?
Yeah.
And then she said, but Mom, I thought I was already born with power. I didn't know you gave it to me. I thought you maintained my power for me. You created a safe space to make sure I exercise my power.
Yes.
So she said to me, if you empower me, it means you can take it from me. If you give it to me, then you have the power to take it away.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a lesson that was for me. And that is always in the back of my mind when I'm doing this work. I'm like, no, we're not empowering girls. let's make sure they exercise the power they have. They already have power. Girls are born with power. And I remind that to every girl. I go, no. You're not powerless. You have power. You were born with power, except people around you are trying to take it away from you by not giving you the right job.
Yes.
By blocking you from going to the right university.
Yes.
By being given away to a 65. That's how we control girls' power. Girls are born with power. They have it.
Yes.
We just need to make sure we create spaces. And I guess coming back to the world of tech.
Yes.
The tech world is still dominated by men. So I think this is why we have to work together, right? Men and women.
Yes.
Men have the duty to create a safe space for the women in the tech space. Because when you speak to a lot of women, they're scared to come to the tech space. This is very dominant. Imagine if she's abused by her dad, beaten by her brother, then raped at some point, harassed at university. How is she going to come to this space?
And this happens to all the girls.
Most women, this is a very common story. So why would she come to a male-dominated space? She's going to go and become a nurse or a teacher where there's a lot of women. There's a genuine fear. So the tech space really has a role. And I'll challenge AT community to really think about, how do we start creating a safe space for women to come? What do we need to do? Do we need to create hackathons just for women, run by women? Do we need to start creating solidarity spaces where we can talk to women in our own company, where we can say, hey, actually, guys, tell us your experience. We don't even know. Because I'm sure, I'm challenging you after our conversation today.
Yes.
Pay more attention to the women who work in this company and just ask, hey,
why?
What's your experience in working in a space which is just full of men all the time? And you'll be surprised. That itself is you creating a safe space to even share that fear. Because the moment you release that fear, it's no longer there. But we're walking around with fear all the time. A lot of the women I've spoken to in tech would say to me, their aim when they go to work is not to be sexually harassed. Imagine, you don't have to think about that when you go to work. You don't think about that.
Well, nowadays, sometimes.
I'm pointing at the camera guy too. Do you think about being sexually harassed when you come to work? Is that the back of your mind when you leave? You go, oh my God, I'm going to be harassed today. I really just want to get my tasks done.
Yes.
But that's women's experience.
Yes.
So it's really important that we address a safe space to bring that up.
Yeah. And now, this actually sometimes for someone out there maybe who is single, who has not really had a close partner, the closest they have gotten to is their sister. And that's a different relation, right? And maybe they're looking for someone. Where do you draw the line between, presenting your manifesto to be either a boyfriend or marry someone?
Say manifesto. I love that. I think we should. But I think we shouldn't joke about that. I think
it's not a joke because a young guy out there is confused, especially with the current situation right now.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid maybe they have seen a beautiful girl and they have clear intentions.
Yep, but they don't know how to approach it.
Because they are also afraid like this lady might report them to the HR and say, I'm sexually harassed. How do we address such issues? Because you don't talk so much about that.
So let me take you back to a system again.
Yes.
Our schools have failed us big time. Like when we leave school, I mean, I left school, when I was school, I knew about algebra, knew about IT, but the most basic things I needed in life, I didn't know. No one taught me. No one taught me about relationships.
Yes.
And managing money. Like those are key skills.
Absolutely.
And well-being.
Yes.
Those three things, no one spoke to me about. So all of us were failed. So it's not just men, even women. Actually, working with these girls, and the way we work with girls, we say, what do you need? And actually one of them said, do you know what we need? She goes, we need like a manual for boys and girls where we learn about healthy relationships and sex.
Yes.
She goes, I'm in a university campus and everybody's lost. Everybody's harming everybody. The women are harming the men are harming the women because we just don't know even the vocab. Like, she goes, we might even need the script sometimes.
Yes.
Just to help us. How do I ask that question? Because you can become someone's friend at first and be attracted to them afterwards.
Yes.
But you're right. Maybe, but these are actually, it's like how you learn how to do this, right? This podcast. You don't read instructions.
I'm still learning.
And you're still learning.
Yes.
And relationships are like that.
Yes.
We just don't have recently, so I've got my best friend. Two of my very good friends got married a year ago. They're about to have a baby. So I'm the godmom.
Yes.
I wanted to get this baby like really good books about relationships and sex and like just these are how relationships and sex are very real things that happen every day.
Yes.
And there was nothing targeting Black children. I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, here we go again. So maybe it's time for us to start producing. So we need to maybe find.
Let me give this a little bit context because I've seen this arise.
And I'm talking about books for children, by the way.
Yes.
There's a great book for African women now that recently came out called Sex Lives of African Women.
Say that again.
Sex Lives of African Women. It's the first guide for African women to read.
Is it accessible everywhere?
Oh, you can buy it in most shops here in Nairobi. She actually came.
Nice.
She's a really good friend. She came and did a whole play. She's a theatre producer here who runs her own podcast as well here, actually.
That's
It's called The
interesting.
Spread.
Yeah.
It's called The Spread. And they did a play where they demonstrated 6 African women's relationships.
Yes.
Amazing. We never had that before. So we need to start creating these spaces. So going back to your question, how do you approach it? Sometimes a lot of us still are learning because we never had a guide. Well, I'm actually
And it's a taboo to talk to your children about sex and relationships.
again
coaching.
challenging the tech community. How do we start creating those systems where a guy can go?
Well,
okay,
there was Tinder, and there is that documentary on Netflix about the Tinder swindler.
oh Lord, oh my gosh.
There was when I was young and looking, there was To Go. It was made by South Africans, and then after that there have been a couple of, but they're
that's
not
what not to
African
do.
made.
That's what not to do in a relationship.
Yeah.
But that was also interesting.
Yes.
The is it Tinder swindler?
Yes.
Again, this is where race is very important.
Yes.
Those women
Yes.
would never have gone to that point if that guy was black. Oh, you should have seen Black Twitter when that documentary came out. They were like, oh my God, they would, because they were just sending money because he was a white man who would. But if that was a black man on a jet, they would not have done it twice.
Never have okay.
Do you see where we have to address these things?
I see.
We're dealing with
And by the way, this is interesting and fascinating at the same time because when I used to use To Go, I don't know if it's still there, the relationship were quite authentic. I could meet authentic people. When I checked out Tinder out of curiosity and to understand the tech out there was so much of ratchetness.
Hey, oh God.
So much of it. And even when I saw that documentary, I was not surprised. I said this is designed from the white perspective of relationships.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, I think online dating has been very important to the world, the world that we're living in.
Yes.
But again, we don't have black friendly
Dating apps.
Actually, another statistics I looked at years ago.
Yeah.
The people who are not approached in dating apps are black men. They're the least.
There's some truth in that.
They're the least because black women are seen as exotic animals.
Oh.
So white men want to date black women just because they fetishize you.
Oh.
So the only reason we beat black men is out of just fetishness. That's it. But actually, black men are not approached in online dating. They're the lowest. They score the lowest in terms of being approached or even someone trying to add them.
Or anything serious, because even from fetish approach is not that
Yeah,
serious.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how that pans out. But there's some point I wanted to make about tech guys, because also I'm sure if tech guys really relate to this, there are so many solutions that can come out of this. And there's this analogy of tech bro. You know what a tech bro is?
No.
So you get a job, maybe there's Microsoft around, there's Google, there's been Andela, there's some remote work, and you can be paid handsomely, if you know what I mean. And I've used that handsomely in quotes.
Okay.
So it become also again confusing if someone who shows interest in you, are they real or it's because of the paycheck?
Okay. So these are the old apps, right? Dating apps where you had to pay to be a member. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying now this is in real life.
Okay.
In real life, whereby you are good in software engineering, you are getting a good paycheck.
I'm with you now. Oh, you have a status.
And the tech guys, by the way,
status.
are the coolest guys to
very
be
like-
with. But they're also the busiest.
Really?
They're the busiest.
Well, I'm being
Right?
biased again. Of course they do.
Yes, let me explain this. So tech guys, most of the time they're coding like 18 hours, 16 hours a day to be really good. And it's quite addictive. And they don't have much time for,
Dating.
ladies.
No, tech guys are married to their jobs.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Especially to coding. Those who code.
But
hey.
at some point they want to have someone.
They come
like
out of
a
the
partner.
cage.
But they're also choosy, right? But they're human, so they want to have fun and
I
they want
didn't know about the choosing
someone.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're in a relationship with someone who really doesn't understand you, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're on the computer like 16 hours straight.
Yeah,
That's not so good for a lady.
I actually said it's the mistress in their lives, and you have to accept it.
Now, and this is personal because there's one specific community member who actually committed suicide, and this is what happened.
Okay.
So he was really good at C, and any developer listening at this, if you're really good at C, you are really good. And one day he just went to work. He had a partner, and when he came back, he found that he had moved without his knowledge, and he didn't know where he moved to, if you know what I mean. So they switched houses without his knowledge. So the partner swept everything. All right. Number one, that was quite depressing because maybe he trusted this lady.
Oh no.
He knew this. If you leave someone in your house, you trust them, right? Yeah. And he knew.
Did she
maybe,
do it on purpose or no? Was it
I have
accident?
no idea, to be honest. Okay. But it was quite devastating. And all of a sudden, this gentleman did not recover from that.
Oh my God.
And he was found dead somewhere, committed suicide. Okay. So, and this is actually something that is really cropping up even in tech industry, right? Whereby you have a good paycheck and you don't know. So even some ladies might take advantage and say you raped them. And there is now that. So people become afraid even to like engage ladies and sometimes they're like, you know what? I'm better single than with someone. And this is not, if you look at
people are single, techie guys are single just out of fear.
Majority of them.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
It's not cool because if the society is that unbalanced, a lot of things can happen. Rape can happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
The spread of diseases, depression.
Or someone wiping,
Yes.
But just to respond to that, so when someone commits suicide, they've been thinking about it for a very long time.
Okay.
By the time they do it, they've been thinking about it for years. So I don't know this guy, I don't know his situation, so I'm not going to speak on that specific, but usually when someone commits suicide, they've been thinking about it for a very long time. And sometimes you will commit suicide over when you look at it as an outside person, what? You committed suicide just because your delivery didn't come on time? It's because they reached, and it really has happened. Yeah. It was like
so that's just
it was something that pushed. So this person was already on the edge.
So that was a trigger.
They were just pushed out of the edge now. It was like, I'm done. And sometimes it needs, you know how like you're in a very toxic relationship sometime and you have the biggest fights and then one day you break up over the fork that broke. You see what I mean? It's like, that's what happened. So this guy, in a normal, someone who wasn't, I mean, this sounds like someone who was in depression for a very long time.
Yes.
To do this. So this is someone who needed help for a very long time, very depressed.
Yes.
This was just the last straw. It was like, I'm done. Actually, it gave him a reason to leave.
And it's a beautiful thinking you've brought into it because it's been some time, like 7-8 years that I've been thinking about it. And even when I see young guys who are getting into court and the approach to ladies and even how they talk about it and the confusion and every other guy they're saying, now ladies, it's not about love. It's about money.
But it's because it's the conditioning. It's the conditioning.
Yes.
Men have been conditioned to marry or be with a woman they can control and have power over money. And she's been told, make sure you have a man with money who can overpower you. Even if she reaches you for money, if that's what she wants, she still doesn't have power because you still control the money. That's what I'm always saying to women, have your own money. It doesn't matter how much it is.
Yes.
Have your own money. Because if someone because there's always someone, when someone has one power over you in the relationship, it's never going to be healthy.
Yes.
So it's the conditioning again. We need to start reframing our minds again. But also, when you keep bringing up, and I think again in the tech space, tech CEOs, when you're doing training for your staff, I think training around healthy relationships is so important. I think that has to be important I think
Very
AT
much.
has to organize.
Yeah.
I'll put that as one of my recommendations.
Yes.
Because I think it's needed, because a lot of us is like, and you know, this comes back to, we all want to be loved.
Everyone.
We all want to be loved.
They say love is the answer.
we love is the answer. Like, we want to be cuddled when you come out of your coding. You want someone to hug you and just love on you and just accepts you for who you are.
Yes.
And it's important to find that person. But you know also what we do? One thing I learned about my healing, we attract our own energy.
Is that the case?
When you're constantly in a negative state of mind, worried about everything, you attract the same people. So I always say to people, like, and I know from my own experience, when I was dating the same people, I had to like take a step back, and I had to talk to myself as one of my clients. What would you tell this client? I would have said, Leyla, there's a pattern here. You're dating the same people who are not good for you. So I took a sabbatical for a bit. Relationships.
How many years?
So my last relationship was 2016.
It's like 6 years.
Nearly, yeah. So Sam is that was my proper serious relationship. Again, genuine, because I really had to take care of myself. I had to learn, I had to reprogram myself as a woman.
And change the mindset.
Change of myself. Yeah. And really, like, a lot of women go into a relationship always trying to satisfy the man. A lot of men are always like, oh my God, I met this chick. She was so great. Then she turned crazy. No, because you know why? She's been put in the front the whole time, where she's just looking after you and it was all about you. And then now she gets tired. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's gone crazy. She's not the same person anymore. So as a woman, I didn't want to be in a relationship again until I knew I can voice what I don't like.
Yes.
What I like, what I don't want, what I can tolerate, what I can work with.
Yes.
Be very clear from day one. Like you don't, and it's not with let's dress up and go and have a drink or coffee when the caffeine kicks in, you're in a good mood. No. This is me at my most vulnerable. Like, no makeup on.
What you see is what you get.
This is it.
And that's quite fascinating if you think about it.
Because then let's both meet the real people. But I had to go and relearn. So that women you're describing, this guy, there needs to be an intervention.
Reality.
Because she has been conditioned. You haven't made it in life unless a man's looking after you financially. That's the conditioning.
Yes.
So she feels like a failure if you don't have money. Can you imagine, you not having money becomes her failure.
Yeah.
That's how she's been conditioned.
She's not focusing on herself.
It's not herself. There you go. That's the women. I don't want to assume it's you we're talking about. Your friend you're asking this for has been...
Well, I'm not dead, of course, I'm here, so it's not
But what I'm saying, but we've all been there. Yeah. We've all been there.
No, I mean, but to be honest, there are a couple of... when I'm sure maybe most Nairobi, especially in Nairobi, you move without your consent a lot. You don't... You disagree, or maybe someone is not happy, and then someone moves. So... you have to like reconcile or maybe move on and look at it. Okay. Cheers. So at the end of the day, when you look at it in that aspect, there's something else that actually comes into my mind about your achievements again. Daughters of Eve.
Actually, can we go off record a bit?
Yes.
I don't want to talk about Daughters of Eve.
Okay.
So there was
fine. That's fine.
Let's talk about Dahlia Project.
Dahlia.
Or the Girl Generation.
That's where I was going next because I wanted to say...
No, let's not mention Daughters of Eve. I'll tell you that outside.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Dahlia Project.
So Dahlia Project was my counselling service that I set up that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So Dahlia, we now see women online all over the world, but it was set up in London originally.
Yes.
So in a way, COVID was great. We can have women online. But it was, as I said earlier, I was questioned and like ridiculed, like, oh my God, what's this girl trying to do with the world of therapy? To the point where now it's actually recognized as one of the best practice by the UK government. So it's recognized. So now where it was based, so it's based in 7 maternity wards in the UK and it's growing.
Amazing.
And it has nothing to do with me now.
Oh.
There's a team that runs it.
Nice.
For me, because it was never about me. I designed it for something that I needed at the time.
Yes.
But I recognized and I outsourced it to everybody. I said, if there's a template, use it. So now I get a lot of therapists who tell me they use the training pack,
Yes.
the outline, and this because I want as many women to access the Dali Project.
Yes.
So that's what the Dali Project is, and it's one of my proudest, I guess, work that I've developed over the years.
Yes.
Because at the time it was non-existent; it didn't exist at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. So it's scalable.
Oh, it's scalable, and I don't even know. I need to find out at some point where it went. But I love the fact that it's become that free.
Nice.
It's other therapists are now looking after the clinic, but there's 6 other clinics in maternity wards.
Yes.
Oh, look, I don't even know who those people are who have been hired.
Yes.
And that's okay. See, that was part of me loving myself.
Yes.
I didn't want to be attached to it like that. Because sometimes, when you start a project or have a startup, there's a sense of like, it's your thing.
It's my baby.
It's my baby. Oh, and let me tell you, I had those conversations with my therapist.
Yes.
And actually, my baby's grown up. We went through the teenage phase.
They can visit if they want.
Now they're an adult.
They're okay.
They're an adult and they function. They're growing very well. If they want to contact me and talk to me as an advisor, perfect.
Nice. That's a good way of looking at it.
And actually, if you go on, if a therapist logs into this podcast, they can go on the Dali Project website and the whole template's there. And I would absolutely recommend use it. Create your own one.
Yeah.
You don't even have to call it
So
Dali.
you don't need to contact Dahlia.
No. I outsourced it from day one. Like for me, it's like everybody free. Take it.
Nice.
Yeah, take it.
And that's quite a good way of looking at it because now it can be scaled to any place. Now, we have to talk about this as we come to conclusion.
Yeah.
You are a rector. How did that go? How did that come about? And not only a rector, but to one of the oldest universities in the world.
Yeah.
Right? That is St. Andrews in UK. And in my high school, the head of the school was not principal, it was a rector. So when I had, hey, Leyla Hussein is a rector.
Yes.
And actually someone insisted on that more than anything. That's how I got to know you. That was like the first statement. Because I asked, who is Leyla? And I was like,
Africans, we love academics. We like academia. That's how we've been conditioned again. We like academia.
I checked out the university and I was like, okay. How is that?
So I'll tell you how that came about. So, so with my work, I had the privilege again of speaking in some of the biggest conferences. I lectured.
Just pause there. She has spoken to Oxford, Cambridge, name them. All the Ivy League.
So I was privileged to be a guest lecturer at Oxford, Cambridge, Penn University, Harvard, Columbia. Some I still remember. I need to go back.
There you have it.
So that's some of the few.
Yes.
And then obviously the previous rector is actually a very good friend of mine.
Yes.
Who invited me as a speaker at St. Andrews. So I was just speaking about my work and they wanted to screen my documentary at the time.
Yes.
So that's where I went. Then I was invited again. So the students really wanted for me to come.
Yes.
And didn't realize by the way, I never even heard of the word rector. Even when he invited me, I didn't pay attention to his title. I knew he was doing something with the university, but I didn't actually pay attention to the title rector.
Yes.
Anyway, then during COVID, early stage of COVID, I get contacted by the students.
Yes.
And by the way, these students are the most engaging, really, they don't give up.
Yes.
They sent me, I think, over 100 emails and tweets and Instagram. They were like, you're going to have to talk to us. And I said one day, I was like, oh my God, because this is the days when we're online. I'm already tired.
Yes. So
I got on the phone call just to break it down to them slowly. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, Kevin syndrome.
I'm not doing this. And then when I saw, they reminded me of me when I was their age. Like I was hungry to change the system.
Yes.
They said to me, we want to change this very elite university.
Yes.
And they said, the actual words are, you fuck up systems. We need someone who fucks up systems and is not going to apologize.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, great, let's do it.
And
I said, but guys, I'm moving to Kenya for work. Like, I won't be there. And they're like, no, everything's online. We'll accommodate you. Yes. And again, this is part of my self-love again. I was not going to compromise my well-being.
How you operate because of this.
For St. Andrews. See, this is where you go with your self-love.
Yes.
Because
so you're very clear that...
Very clear.
I
was ready to let go.
I'll do it, but...
I knew who St. Andrews were. I know Kate Middleton and Prince William went there. Like, I know the people that went to that place. But I went on that call with the intention of I'm not going to compromise my well-being for anybody.
Yes, yes.
And it means I'm going to have to let go of St. Andrews being the right potential. And you have to run like a party. So different student groups.
Yes.
So I had to run against two other people.
Yes.
One of them, her name is Fiona Hill, amazing.
To campaign?
To campaign, you have to run like an actual party. And I was like, oh my God,
this is not just added to you.
No. They have to vote. There's a voting system.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I thought, oh my God, this is not my thing. Oh, but they were so convincing. So I was very so we had to build.
So there was that drive, like,
we
if you run, we're
had
going
to create
vote.
a manifesto. So the manifesto had to be aligned with my views.
Maybe God is speaking to you.
So it was for me it was access and well-being was very key to me, because for me a lot of students I went to the poorest part of, like, when I went to college, it wasn't like, oh my God, it's the best college. It was like, hey girl, you got in. Just don't get killed, don't get stabbed, don't get into drugs. That was my advice for my parents when I went to college.
Yes.
Like, because I didn't have such access. So I wanted kids who grew up where I grew up in London to have access to St. Andrews. So to me, that was very key. So that was my manifesto. Because a lot of the houses around St. Andrews are for millionaires. So even if you got in with your academic achievements, you can't afford to live there. You can't even afford to live there. So we had to address. So during the campaign, I found out, oh yeah, a journalist contacted me. I'm like, why does a journalist want to talk to me? Rectorship has been a big thing. Like, it's not. The journalist said, oh, if you win, you'll be the first black woman to hold this position. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh no. I didn't know. That somehow skipped. And the students purposely didn't tell me this. They thought I was going to be like freaking out and not do it.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, we didn't tell you. We didn't want that kind of pressure on you. But this one, I'm in the middle of all of it. So I didn't just win. I think I was told I had the most votes ever in the history of rectorship. I think they never had someone who got 45% of the votes. So that proved, imagine, so this is how much you mess up with systems.
Yes.
A black woman got white kids to vote for her the most. It's never happened before.
That's not a small feat.
No, it wasn't. It was literally majority of the students voted for me.
Yes.
And what I did, I befriended one of my supposed to be, enemies, other opposition.
Yeah, that's where you started that.
Fiona Hill is an amazing woman who, she went to the other two went to St. Andrews. I never went to St. Andrews. She is, she was one of the, she works in public policy. She's one of the people that nearly impeached Donald Trump. She has a big profile.
What?
But her work, she comes from a working class background in the UK, meaning also she grew up in similar areas to me. So we partnered very quickly. I said, listen, if you win, so even the way we did the debates, it was not toxic. Her and I, we spoke to each other outside of everybody.
Yes.
I said to her, listen, if you win, I'm going to support you. She goes, if you win. So our debates was very friendly. Everybody was like, what's going on? So again, messing up the system. Debates with an opposition doesn't mean you have to scream and shout and put them down. Everybody was they were shocked. We're like, Fiona, you did such a great job. Can you maybe share? So maybe I can bring my skills to this.
Yes.
And now she's written a book about access, and she talks about how difficult that was for her. So for me, it's really important. So that role at St. Andrews, it was scary. I am now chairing the board of St. Andrews.
Yeah.
35 board members. I'm the only black person.
Your voice is hard.
And I'm the only black person. I'm chairing 35 white people.
It means a lot.
Yeah. So it's a very important role. And I'm trying to change one of their governance at the moment, which has never been changed ever.
Wow.
And it is causing a lot of tension and anxiety, but I'm slowly guiding them in a very loving way. I'm like, guys, there has to be a revolution at some point in any organization.
Yes.
This is the time to do that.
Yes.
So really, it's been and by the way, really, St. Andrews is one of the best activist students I've ever met in my life.
Yes.
Really. And it's because they have privilege. They're privileged students, so they have time to fight. They have food they eat. I said, this is what privilege looks like.
Yes.
And when I see the students, I always say, your fight is needed. Because there are people who don't have time to fight.
Yes.
So you guys have to fight.
Yes.
Over and over again.
What? Yeah. So Leyla, when you sit and think about all this, just know one thing. You are so powerful. So powerful. And we can't wait to see what you achieve, with the rectorship, the girl child, and keep pushing. And we got you, I can say this, we got your back in terms of tech, If you need anything, I know guys heard about the app that actually can show you the laws that support the girl child, the accessibility, the transparency, the conversations. And I take your challenge, so I'll try to host a couple of tech ladies so that they can speak up and be heard.
Yeah, let's create a safe space for women to come. Men play a big role in making sure that happens.
Yes. So thank you so much, Leyla. And it was an honor to have this conversation, because at the end of the day, it's not just about Impact Masters Media. It's about what can we do to move ahead of the pack.
Thank you so much.
As a continent.
Absolutely. And as a community too.
As a community. And because there's so much going on in the world, and we have to step up.
Hey, love is the answer.
Love is the answer. So thank you so much. And have a good day, wherever you are. Good day, good morning, good evening. And it's an amazing conversation that we're having here. It's yours truly, Michael Kemadi, or you can call me MK. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, see you.